Okie dokie, church. Let's start with our big opening number for the beauty of the earth.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to all, and a special welcome to Olivia Brownlee, who is leading us in song today, and also going to be performing some really beautiful pieces. So thank you, and Maura, always thank you for your accompaniment during our services. And welcome to each and every one of you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal, religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we like to say, in short, to create community, find meaning, and live justly. I want to begin also by welcoming all that you bring with you to this space, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences. And this is true of all of those of you who are in the room with us this morning, as well as the many of you who are live streaming with us. We're so glad to have all of you. So welcome to one and all. I want to make, I think, one important announcement. The North American Unitarian Association, NAUA, is having its first yearly summit here at the church this week, starting, there'll be people arriving on Thursday, and I think there's a little something at the hotel, a reception of sorts, but the events will really start Friday morning at 10, and then continue on Saturday, and we'll conclude Sunday morning. So 2 things you need to know. Firstly, our keynote speaker, John Wood Jr., who is with an international spokesperson really with Braver Angels, as well as a lot more to his bio, will be our keynote here in person at 10 a.m. Pacific here in the sanctuary. And that address is open to everyone. So whether or not you've registered for the whole event or not, you're welcome to come to that next Saturday. And then Sunday, because the service will also be the conclusion, sort of concluding service and celebration of our yearly summit, we will have everybody together in one service at 10 a.m. rather than 11. So this makes it more convenient for the folks that are joining us from other time zones to Zoom in with us and live stream with us and not get too late into their day, and hopefully not too early for those of you who like to come at 11. So keep that in mind. Keynote, John Wood Jr., 10 a.m. Pacific, Saturday, and one joint service, Sunday at 10 a.m. And you can go online to the NAUA website and look at the naunitarians.org and look at the schedule if you want to know more about what's going on. So excited about that. All right, that is all I have. Oh, no, I don't. Somebody in between services gave me 4 tickets to the girls' soccer match. I hope I'm getting that right. I'm not a sports person. The Spokane Zephyrs soccer? Ladies soccer? Yeah! Woohoo! I got it right. What's that? They really need support. So these are free tickets for today's 2 o'clock game. It says 6 on here, but apparently they changed it to 2 on Sundays. But these are 4 prime seats for anybody who wants them. So if you're interested in going to 2 o'clock, nice day for soccer, you can have 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay? I'll keep them in my pocket. So, all right. So with that said, let's take a few moments to welcome one another. And if you are visiting with us for the first time, we're so glad to have you. So don't be shy. So far, everybody is pretty friendly around here. All right, thank you all so much. Sorry to interrupt. Looked like you were enjoying yourselves, but as always, there's more opportunity to visit with one another during social hour following the service. So please stick around for a warm cup of coffee or tea and some friendly conversation after the service. But let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
For our opening reflection, I offer the words from the prologue to the book, The Coming Wave, by Mustafa Suleyman, on the topic of what do the coming waves of technology mean for humanity? On the one hand, the potential benefits of these technologies, AI and biotechnology, are vast and profound. With AI, we could unlock the secrets of the universe, cure diseases that have long eluded us, and create new forms of art and culture that stretch the bounds of imagination. With biotechnology, we could engineer life to tackle diseases and transform agriculture, creating a world that is healthier and more sustainable. But on the other hand, the potential dangers of these technologies are equally vast and profound. With AI, we could create systems that are beyond our control and find ourselves at the mercy of algorithms that we don't understand. With biotechnology, we could manipulate the very building blocks of life, potentially creating unintended consequences for both individuals and entire ecosystems. As we stand at this turning point, we are faced with a choice between a future of unparalleled possibility and a future of unimaginable peril. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance, and the decisions we make in the coming years and decades will determine whether we rise to the challenge of these technologies or fall victim to their dangers. Let me note that one thing that should give us pause when considering these comments is they were not written by a human at all. Rather, they were generated by the AI algorithms of a chatbot.
On that note, let's stand as you're able and sing I've Got Peace Like a River. I'm going to do the hand motions, you can too. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, I got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain, I've got strength like a mountain in my soul, down in my soul.
Thank you so much. When I was studying at the University of Creation Spirituality, we always started every day off with what they called body prayer. And it always included music and movement. So thanks for the body prayer today. So we're now going to kindle our candles of care on behalf of those who are most on our hearts and minds. And I want to begin on behalf of the people of Ukraine and Russia, who are continuing to deal with the war and violence there, as well as the people of Israel and Palestinian people and the violence that has now moved into Iran and Lebanon and seems to be impacting more lives, not fewer. So we think of all of these people. We think of the people who are suffering in our own country due to the terrible storms caused by global warming, unabated, unattended global warming. We think about them. And also I got word earlier that our friend Reverend Happy Watkins has suffered a stroke. I don't know the details, but I want to have him in our thoughts at this time and his family as well. So let's share a moment of silence on behalf of others you might be thinking of, and always you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
You believe when they told you that heaven awaits, with a throne in the sky and big pearly gates. I've seen the pictures from the rockets in space. There ain't nothing up there but empty black grace. Yeah, the planets they dance, and the sun she shines on. It's got its romance, but it ain't where I belong. So don't you listen to no one trying to sell you no hype, 'cause heaven is right here if you're doing it right. Heaven is right here if you're doing it right. Don't you listen to no one trying to sell you no high, 'cause heaven is right here if you're doing it right. No, you don't have to wait till you stumble and die, 'cause heaven is right here if you're doing it right. Heaven is right here if you're doing it right.
Thank you, Olivia. One of the best things about today is I got to hear that song twice. Thank you so much. Time for our story for all ages. If anybody wants to come closer, you're welcome to. There we go. Let's see who is joining us today. Hey, it's my old friend, Avery Mann. How's it going, Avery? Hello, everyone. How are you? How are you? Good to see you. Hi, kids. So, Avery, every time you visit us, it seems like you've been looking for a new career. So far, you've been a used car salesman, an inventor, innovator. Oh, yes, that's right, an innovator, a movie director, a baseball player, and a philosopher. So, what are you up to these days? Well, I've become a Shakespearean actor. A Shakespearean actor. I never would have guessed. Doesn't it take a lot of years, really, of professional training? Well, not if you're a natural like me. Oh, yeah? All I had to do was read Shakespeare for Dummies and watch a few YouTube videos. Well, it's hard to imagine that you'd be very good, especially Shakespearean acting, without some kind of professional training. I told you, I'm a quick study. Anybody who's had as many jobs as I have has to be quick on his feet. Well, I don't know. Can you give us an example? Recite something from Shakespeare then. Oh, I don't know any Shakespeare. You don't know Shakespeare? No, I tried to read some of this stuff, but none of it made any sense to me. Too bad he didn't write in English. Yeah, well, he actually was English, and just how can you be a Shakespearean actor if you don't know any Shakespeare? Well, truth is, I used my skills as an innovator to make a pill that makes me sound like Shakespeare. Oh, come on, a pill? That's not possible. Sure it is. I'll take one right now, then every word out of my mouth will sound like Shakespeare. Well, then before you say another word, it just so happens that I have a new French toast recipe right here. And why don't you just try reading that as if it were put together by Shakespeare? Fresh eggs I whisk with sugar just and thice. A sprinkle here to make the mixture nice. A dash of cinnamon to tease the nose. Into the mix, then tan the bread now goes. They sizzle, hiss, and turn a golden hue. They tough and crisp a toasty rendezvous. At last I serve with syrup drizzled round. A breakfast fit to make the stomach sound. Wow, this got to be some kind of a trick. I don't believe that you have made a pill that makes you sound like Shakespeare. Why don't you let me try one of those? Well, within my pocket doth a pill reside, intended solely for thee. Oh, okay, let's see here. We'll see about this. Behold, now I sound not like the bard himself, do I? Hold it a moment. I do sound like the bard himself. I can scarce believe it. Did I not tell thee so? Thou shouldst believe me. But I thought not it would truly take effect. I cannot speak thus. I have a service to conduct and a sermon to deliver. I must regain my normal voice at once. Fear not. 'Tis but the drawback, the magic tale endures but 2 minutes, and thou canst take no more than 1 per day, else it ceases to work altogether. Impressive though thy invention be, thou shalt ne'er secure a role as Shakespearean actor if thou canst perform but for 5 minutes. Do I not already know thy truth explained? Let this be a lesson unto thee. Thou canst not take shortcuts if thou wouldst achieve success. Success, wait thou minutest. Methinketh, I think my pill has worn off. Mine too. Well, there's an old saying, Avery, anything worth doing is worth doing right. If you really want to be a Shakespearean actor, you're going to have to study and work at it. That's all right. I decided to go work at Disneyland instead. Disneyland? Yes, I invented a tale that makes me sound just like Mickey Mouse, and it lasts the entire day. Want to try one? No, thanks. I believe you this time, so good luck with your new career, Avery, and I hope you enjoy Disneyland. See you later, boys and girls. N-I-C... Oh, please don't start that, Avery. We're going to sing it. No. Let's not get that. Now we've got to do better than that now that you've started us. Olivia, would you lead us in the Mickey Mouse song?
Mickey Mouse, ba-ba-ba-ba, Mickey Mouse, ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-da.
I see you. Oh.
Come along and sing the song, enjoy the Jubilee. M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E.
All right, thank you very much. Yay. Thank you guys very much. So you want to follow them? You can. There you go. They're waiting. Okay, good. I think you're up. Yeah. Okay. Get your kids. Yeah.
For today's meditation, I invite you into a state of repose. Make yourselves comfortable. Close your eyes if you like and breathe slowly, mindfully, deeply. Reflect on the words of Swiss-American psychiatrist and author Elizabeth Kubler-Ross on the sources and nature of human empathy, which arguably has implications for the development of AI. The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen.
suspended to keep out the river. You're driving for miles aligned with the treetops. I wouldn't have known it to ask. They say in the delta the water is better. It's deeper, it's quicker, it's sweeter, it's wetter. It's tameless and shameless, and I think you'd like it, 'cause I know you better than that. You said when they bury me right on my grave, where there's water, there's life. What a likable kind. Break down my body, but I know what's true, and it ain't you, it ain't me, it ain't this. The Lafayette flea market's hustling and bustling from 10 in the morning. From Friday to Sunday, they're buying and trying on stocking up something, but you wouldn't give a rat's ass. I like when you took me to misty northeastern in cranberry country at night this last spring, and we watched the amphibians crossing the highway. I wouldn't have known it to ask. Gosh, I could scream at the bad self-esteem when the selfishness peaks and we lose it for weeks, all suffering, wondering, lost in the desert with desolate thirst, expecting the worst. You said when they bury me right on my grave, where there's water, there's life. What a likable kind. You can break down my body, but I know what's true, and it ain't you. So nothing compares to a puddle in springtime, teeming and oozing and hullapaloozing. 'Cause just like you told me, there's life where there's water, and I'm better and smarter for that.
Olivia, thanks again so much for that original song. As a school child, I disliked the study of history almost as much as I disliked math, which is saying a lot. I disliked history because it was boring. What relevance does the past have to a child whose entire life is before him? I cannot visit the past, I cannot change the past, I cannot experience the past. So let the dead bury the dead, as Jesus said, while the living plow ahead. My disinterest in learning about history, either from books or documentaries, lingered well into my adulthood. Although I was immensely interested in learning about some of the greatest ideas of the past, particularly the study of philosophy and psychology, it was the ideas that interested me, not the context in which they were born, not even the biographies of those who birthed them. It wasn't until I was nearly 40, more than 20 years ago now, when I know you can't tell, it's true, that I finally began shedding the failed idealisms of my youth, grew less interested in figuring myself out, and was truly ready to put my hand to the plowshare, so to speak, and work toward a better future for everyone. That I finally became a student of history. This is so because I realized that today's problems and challenges are not altogether different than those made by our ancestors in the near and distant past. So to help us correct some of the major issues we're facing today, it's necessary to learn what caused them long ago, the same way that doctors must first understand the causes of illness before understanding how to treat them. So to improve tomorrow, we must, as the great scientist and inventor Emmett Brown famously told Marty McFly, go back to the future. Today, I believe, despite all of our scientific and technological advances, that humanity itself has entered a new age of endarkenment. As with the dark ages of the past, today's endarkenment is fundamentally characterized by the widespread insistence on one idea, one right way of thinking, one righteous way of thinking. Only today, instead of there being literally only one specific idea, namely that of the Roman Catholic Church or Roman Catholic doctrine, there are countless one ideas. Yet people are often just as obsessed with the rightness and righteousness of their ideology as were our dogmatic ancestors. We saw this with the Reformers who protested Catholic doctrine, only to soon become just as intolerant and cruel towards those whom they disagreed with. Michael Servetus, the founder of Unitarianism, was condemned and burned alive along with his writings by none other than the reformer John Calvin, the founder of Presbyterianism. Likewise, the Lutherans, those who started the Reformation and were persecuted by the Roman Catholic Church, brutally persecuted Unitarians' theological ancestors, the Anabaptists, out of existence. The Calvinists, who also persecuted the Anabaptists and were themselves persecuted by the Catholics, also clashed with the Lutherans over their theological differences. Later, the Anglicans, the Church of England, came along and persecuted the Puritans, the English Calvinists, who fled to America, where they persecuted the Quakers and the Catholics. The animus towards Catholics in the U.S., in fact, lasted well into the 20th century, which is why it was a really big deal when the first Catholic, John F. Kennedy, was elected president despite being one. Today, even the Unitarian Universalist branch of Unitarianism, which was founded in the 16th century on the very principle of religious tolerance, has finally become entirely intolerant of anyone who disagrees with its neo-racist beliefs to the point of demonizing, silencing, and excommunicating ministers who dare disagree with them. Here we see the phenomenon known as history repeating itself, doomed to do so by those, as philosopher George Santayana said, who do not learn from history. Today, with the advance of communication technology, differing ideas abound, far too many for us to even be aware of, let alone adequately consider. In our confusion, many of us seek refuge by finding just one ideology to believe in, then join with a small group of others who share it, relatively small, and become just as insistent that our group's ideology is the right and righteous ideology, and thus feel justified in demonizing and dehumanizing anyone who disagrees with them, just as our ancestors did. Back then, rather than the internet and social media, it was the invention of the printing press that made the spread of so many different ideas possible, which led to many instances of ideological persecution and intolerance that I mentioned. But after a century of religious wars had finally weakened and worn most people down, they finally became more open to being open. Intolerance, the insistence that there is just one right and righteous ideology, wasn't working for anyone. It was then, as philosopher Susan Neiman says, the Enlightenment emerged from a blasted landscape, a continent soaked with blood. It was a history of waves of plagues without cure, of ever-returning religious wars in which countless people died. Women were regularly burned alive as suspected witches, men thrown chained into dungeons for writing a pamphlet. But before the Enlightenment of the 18th century, came the Renaissance of the 15th, 16th, and somewhat 17th. The Renaissance refers to a renewed interest in history, a rediscovery of the past, particularly that of antiquity, before the one idea of the Roman Catholic Church became dominant. It was a particularly difficult study to undertake, given that the Church, in its pursuit of ideological supremacy, destroyed as much as 90% of the writings of antiquity. As much as 90%, which means that most of the period's greatest and most important ideas are gone. We're gone forever. We'll come back to the significance of what little has remained, but first, given that our greatest problem today may be that we've entered into a new age of endarkenment caused by too many people vying for ideological supremacy, let's consider the historical causes of the original such state, the Dark Ages, which began after the fall of Rome. In retrospect, the Roman Empire is often portrayed unfavorably, and rightfully so in many ways, but ancient Rome also gives us much to admire, particularly under the stable rule of its first emperor, Octavius, who came to power in 27 CE, BCE, I should say, and was given the honorary but well-deserved title Augustus, meaning the exalted. Emperor Augustus became hugely popular among his people because he ended 100 years of civil war, right? That's what keeps us from moving forward, the strife, the conflict. He ended that and established the Pax Romana, a peace that lasted for 200 years, along with establishing an honest government, a sound economy, a better infrastructure, including roads, buildings, bridges, aqueducts, a postal service, free trade, art and literature, and the successful expansion of the empire. Upon his death in 14 CE, the Roman Senate deified him, built temples in his honor, and his cult became an important part of the official Roman state religion. Rome remained the most powerful empire in the world long past the death of its revered emperor, but its eventual fall in 476 CE marks the beginning of a centuries-long period that became known as the Dark Ages. So to understand some of the potential causes of today's endarkenment, in which intolerance abounds, we can look back to the causes of the first such period, beginning with the demise, again, of the Roman Empire, resulting from the collapse of its political structures, administrative systems, economic systems, and its own fragmentation. The weak, divided, and ineffective government made Europe vulnerable to invasion by the Visigoths, the Vandals, the Huns, and later by the Vikings and the Magyars, which further destabilized the Roman provinces and created a power vacuum. Cities then shrank and were abandoned as population shifted to rural areas. Economic activity declined, and infrastructure such as roads and aqueducts fell into disrepair. The decline of centralized power also meant that education and literacy became less widespread, which is one of the reasons we now refer to this as the Dark Ages, because of the deterioration of literacy and learning, of the activity of thinking, if you will. These changes also led to the breakdown in trade routes and to the flow of merchandise, leading to recession. And the loss of central authority also led to feudalism, and importantly, to limited cultural exchange. Right? That's when we start to shut down, when we cloister into our own identities and no longer interact with those outside. And finally, these limited interactions with the more widespread world led to the rise of Roman Catholicism to fill that power void, making dogma the dominant form of intellectual life, to everyone agreeing with and adhering to the one right and righteous idea. And that was the beginning of the Dark Age. We find in this list of causes some parallels to what's going on today. Powerful nations, including the U.S., are becoming weaker because of divided and therefore dysfunctional governments. If not exposed to invasion by neighboring countries, as some are, we are exposed to misinformation and disinformation and cyber attacks perpetrated by foreign actors. The wish to protect ourselves, to be safe, to become great again, makes us want to isolate ourselves from the rest of the world by identifying with a specific group based on things like our nationality, or our race, or our religion, or our political party, or our specific ideology, and so on. The threat of high levies and foreign goods and potential international trade wars upon us could soon make inflation skyrocket around the world. Foreigners are being demonized and criminalized at home and abroad, which is a further example of how closing ourselves off from cultural exchanges is damaging. Meanwhile, much of our aging infrastructure, at least here in the U.S., is in disrepair, and there is no common vision for how to progress as a nation. Finally, we have extremists on both the far right and the far left who embrace either alternative facts or reject reason as white supremacy, and are extremely intolerant of anyone who disagrees with them, which can only lead to the demise of our intellectual life. One ideology is never enough, can never be enough for us to flourish as a society or to achieve our full potential as individuals. How can a society be innovative if we're not free to think outside the box? Perhaps these parallels explain the age of endarkenment that we're now in. A term I use instead of the Dark Age because, unlike the Dark Ages, today's endarkenment is post-Enlightenment. That is, it is a rejection of the Enlightenment's commitment to our common humanity, to individual dignity, to freedom, to reason, and to tolerance. We have also learned from history that on a few occasions, humanity has embraced these liberal principles. When it has embraced these principles, I should say, it has flourished socially, economically, technologically, scientifically, medically, intellectually, and in fact is the only time it ever has. For the same reason. We cannot evolve, we cannot get past our stuff, we cannot think outside the box if we are not free to think outside the box, to think for ourselves. But history also provides examples of what happens when these values are rejected. These days, because of the great strides we've taken in these areas, thanks to the Enlightenment's unleashing of human innovation and curiosity, we tend to think that we are a lot smarter. We must be a lot smarter than our primitive ancestors. But I think that they were just as intelligent as us, and we are often as primitive in our thinking and behavior today as we imagine they must have been. For example, we consider that Einstein is the founder and father of modern physics, and think that our knowledge of quantum physics is relatively new and is what has allowed us, unlike anyone else in history, to develop atomic energy, to land on the moon, to build computers and cars and televisions, the internet, and artificial intelligence, and so much more. But most of the knowledge that led us to these advances was also known by our ancestors 2,600 years ago, at least 2,600 years ago that we know of. The only difference is that their knowledge was suppressed. Their knowledge was suppressed by dogmatists before they could use it to make the kind of advances that we have. But our advances are based on the rediscovery of what they already knew back then. The Renaissance and the Enlightenment that followed are the result of having discovered less than 10% of what our ancestors understood, which to me makes them extraordinarily impressive. Anaximander, for example, a student of Thales of Miletus, the first Greek philosopher, is the first person we know of anywhere to understand, in his words, the earth is a body of finite dimensions floating in space. How can somebody, through observation 2,600 years ago, look at what is obviously a flat earth that must be standing on something, supported by something, understand that it is an object floating in empty space and not falling? It isn't very remarkable to us today, this idea, unless we're among the few idiotic flat earthers there are. But considering what most people believed about the nature of existence at the time, the idea that the earth is a body floating in empty space is stunning. Anaximander also understood, in his words, that rainwater is water from the sea and rivers that evaporate because of the sun's heat. It is carried away by the wind and then falls onto the earth. Thunder and lightning are caused by colliding and splitting clouds. Earthquakes are caused by fissures in the earth. He also said that all animals originally came from the sea, or from the primal humidity that once covered the earth. The first animals were thus either fish or fish-like creatures. They moved onto land when the earth became dry, and they adapted to living there. Human beings in particular cannot have been born in their current form because babies are not self-sufficient, so someone else had to have fed them. They grew out of fish-like creatures. Again, Anaximander came to these conclusions through reason and observation more than 2,500 years before Newton or Darwin or Einstein. A few years after Anaximander expressed his unprecedented theories, a couple of other Milesian philosophers, Leucippus and his brilliant student Democritus, developed atomic theory. According to physicist and philosopher Carlo Rovelli, Democritus explained that the entire universe is made up of a boundless space in which innumerable atoms run. Space is without limits, has neither an above nor a below, is without a center or a boundary. Atoms have no qualities at all apart from their shape. They have no weight, no color, no taste. Again, in Democritus' own words, sweetness is opinion, bitterness is opinion, heat, cold, and color are opinion. In reality, only atoms and vacuum. Anaximander, Leucippus, and Democritus understood things about the nature of reality that weren't discovered, but rediscovered in the modern era by giants like Darwin and Einstein. But the genius of these more ancient thinkers was all but erased by the one right and righteous idea of the time, of the Roman Catholic Church. Again, as Rovelli puts it, centuries dominated by monotheism have not permitted the survival of Democritus' naturalism. The closure of the ancient schools such as those of Athens and Alexandria, and the destruction of all the text not in accordance with Christian ideas was vast and systematic. Christianity was to be the only and obligatory religion of the empire. What we do know of these ancient physicists is mostly known from but a few fragments that have survived, or their ideas explained by Aristotle. Very little of their original thinking has survived. But what we do have is an impressive list of the titles, just the titles of Democritus's many works. I normally wouldn't read this many titles, but to give you an idea of what we lost and the kind of information we lost, I'm going to read these 64 titles. Great Cosmology, Little Cosmology, Cosmography, On the Planets, On Nature, On Human Nature, On Intelligence, On the Senses, On the Soul, On Flavors, On Color, On Diverse Movements of the Atoms, of Changes in Shape, the Causes of Celestial Phenomena, the Causes of Atmospheric Phenomena, On Fire and on Things of Fire, the Cause of Acoustic Phenomenon, Concerning the Magnet, the Causes of Seeds, Plants, and Fruits, On Animals, a description of the sky, geography, a description of the pole, on geometry, geometrical reality, on the tangents of the circle and the sphere, numbers, on irrational lines and solids, projections, astronomy, astronomical tables, on rays of light, on reflected images, on rhythm and harmony, on poetry, on the beauty of song, on euphony and cacophony, concerning Homer or the correct epic diction, the science of medicine, on agriculture, on words, on names, on values, and on virtue, on the disposition that characterizes the wise, on painting, a treatise on tactics, circumnavigation of the ocean, on history, the thoughts of Chaldea, on the sacred writings of Babylon, on the sacred writings of Miro, on fevers and the coughs deriving from illness, legal questions, Pythagoras, on logic, on criterion of thought, confirmations, points of ethics, on well-being. If you went to a library on science or medicine today, you'd probably find some of those same titles. All but these titles are gone. Hence the title of my sermon, Crying Over the Spilled Milky Way. In reading history, I mourn the loss of what could have been. I imagine what the world might be like today if our ancient ancestors, just as smart or smarter than us, had been honored and believed instead of silenced and condemned. Imagine if by the time of Copernicus, that Copernicus had to recant, and Galileo was imprisoned for proclaiming their heliocentric theories of the solar system, that question had already been settled long ago, and that we had already by then gone to the moon. Maybe even we're already living on Mars and had the internet and quantum computers and AI and have already passed through our destructive and dangerous environmental degradation and found ways to restore Earth's sustaining systems and live in technological harmony with nature. Because our ancestors had believed in the writings and teachings of those like Anaximander and Democritus, instead of worshiping a single book of obvious and absurd fictions while banning and destroying all others. Look how far we've come in just 120 years since accepting Einstein's theory of relativity. Yet there were more than 1,500 years between Democritus and Copernicus. Imagine what humanity could have accomplished during all those centuries compared to what we, with the same knowledge at our disposal, have accomplished in little more than 1 century. Or imagine what the world's going to be like in 1,500 years from now. So yes, I'm crying over the spilled Milky Way. My metaphor for having lost the groundbreaking scientific knowledge of a world and universe that was discovered centuries before even Christ was born. That's the thing about studying history. It grieves us. Not because mistakes were made, but because we realize that we are still suffering the impacts of some of those ancient mistakes. And worse, we're still making some of those mistakes ourselves. But the point of studying history is not to grieve what we've lost, but to learn from the mistakes of the past so that we can move forward and begin to make real progress. History reminds us that the only way forward is to be open-minded and open-hearted to others. It means embracing our common humanity and respecting the worth and dignity of others, no matter where they come from or what they believe. It means facing reality on its own terms, whether we like those terms or not, by embracing reason and science and genuine facts, not alternative facts. It means committing to a society that guarantees the freedoms and rights of everyone, including especially those we disagree with. The freedom to think and speak for ourselves, the freedom to be innovative and creative and transformative. And it means we must tolerate one another, no matter how different we might be or how much we might disagree. We must learn to live and let live. We don't have to like our neighbors or be like our neighbors, but we must love them by caring about their welfare and valuing their rights as much as we value our own. None of us needs to be a genius to understand that this is the path forward. It's not brain science. It's something we already understand, and considering what history shows and teaches us, it's something we've always understood on some level. So let's put our hands to the plowshare and move forward, but not without looking back over our shoulders now and again to remember where we've come from. After all, there's no point in crying over the spilled Milky Way. Thank you.
All right, we're going to sing another song. You guys might know this better than I do, so sing loud. You can stand up if you like. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our feet lead the quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high. Spirits joining as we fly, to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
For our benediction, I offer the words of American writer, teacher, and institutional consultant Margaret Wheatley, whose work focuses on creating organizations and communities worthy of human habitation. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.